So it does have so many layers.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the August 28th Transportation Commission meeting. I am Anumi Duno-Bikoya, the Transportation Commission Staff Liaison, and I would like to let you all know that this meeting is being recorded, so please turn off your mics and Teams when you are not speaking. And before we start with the meeting agenda items, are there any citizen comments on matters that are not on the agenda? Hearing no citizen comments, I will turn the meeting over to Chairman Aiden Muratovic and start the meeting. Welcome.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Good evening. I think we can start with the first agenda item, 2500 Wilson Boulevard.
Okay, well, we have the development team here. If you can share your screen to start your presentation.
Terrific. Thanks, Mr. Chair. We will bring it up here in just a moment. My name is Kedrick Whitmore. I'm a land use and zoning attorney with Venable LLP, representing the applicant. We have been at the public process since our online engagement kickoff in January. Through that time, we've gone through several SPRC meetings and 2 online engagements to discuss the project. And we're very excited to bring it to you here this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Glavin from TMG to walk you through the proposal.
Awesome. Thank you, Ked. As Ked mentioned, we're excited to be here tonight to talk about the 2500 Wilson Boulevard proposed redevelopment. This has been basically a year in the making since we submitted our application last fall. We're really excited to be here, and I'm happy to report that it has obviously been a very collaborative effort, not only between our development team, but also staff along the way, in addition to some formal community engagement touch points, as well as many informal touch points along the way. So I'd like to give a brief overview of the project. I know most of you are familiar with it at this point in time before I flip it over to our traffic engineers and transportation consultants to talk through some of the details of the night. So big picture, this project is located within the Roslyn-Ballston corridor, specifically directly between the courthouse and Clarendon metro stops. So we have great access to public transit amenities, as well as all of the lifestyle amenities and employment centers within the county of Arlington. Specifically, our site is bordered by Wilson Boulevard to the north, North Cleveland Street to the west, Clarendon Boulevard to the south, and North Barton Street to the east. So this will be a full block redevelopment, and that's kind of a key component to how we're thinking about the proposal. In terms of existing conditions, there's a 5-story office building that exists on site today. It's about 100,000 square feet, and it has 1 to 1.5 levels of parking that occupy a partially below grade garage that occupies the southern half of the site, which has been kind of a key component for how we're thinking about enhancing the open space that exists on the southern half of the site. The other thing worth noting in terms of existing conditions is that there is some public art on site that we plan to reincorporate, at least in part, going forward. For the program of this proposed redevelopment, we are proposing a 14-story structure that has approximately 316 residential units. We have 14,000 square feet of ground floor retail that we have very strategically concentrated along the Clarendon Boulevard frontage, as well as the open space, so that those adjacencies can really complement one another. We have our residential lobby and amenity space kind of on the corner of North Barton Street, as well as Wilson Boulevard, as well as 6 ground floor units that are residential along Wilson Boulevard. And last but not least, we have 2 levels of below grade parking and 156 spaces in those levels that will be split between residential spaces, retail spaces, and then the required visitor parking. I know transportation is kind of the topic du jour, so I'll look around the building from an architecture standpoint, but won't dwell too long on this. As I mentioned, it's a 14-story structure. The angle that you're looking at here is from the corner of North Barton Street and Wilson Boulevard. So kind of one of our key corridors when you think about the circulation around the site. Both Wilson Boulevard and Clarendon Boulevard are one-way streets, so that flow of traffic that will be heading closer to Clarendon will go right by this corner. Onto the next side, we have the corner of North Cleveland Street and Clarendon Boulevard, where that open space has been strategically located, and we were able, by pushing the parking below grade, we're able to make this open space flush with the sidewalk, which is a condition that does not exist today, and is something that we, as well as the county and community, have really rallied behind in terms of enhancing what exists there today. So with that, I'm going to flip it over to Felice with Grove Slate.
Thanks, Dan. So I think we just wanted to take a few minutes to walk through some of the transportation elements of the site. As Dan mentioned, it's in the courthouse area of Arlington. It's about 0.2 miles from the courthouse metro station and just a little under a half mile from the Clarendon metro station. There are about 17 bus stops within a quarter mile of the site, and it is, of course, within a very well-connected pedestrian and bicycle network. As Dan mentioned, the parking is below grade, so we'll take a closer look at those access points on the next couple of slides. And then again, of course, long and short-term bike parking will be provided within, and as well as it'll also include a transportation management plan. So we can skip to the next slide. So this just shows the site again in a little bit more detail. As Dan mentioned, it's about 316 residential units with 14,000 square feet of retail. Pedestrian access is located off of North Barton Street near the residential lobby, and then retail access, as Dan mentioned, is off of Clarendon Boulevard. Access to the below-grade parking garage is off of North Cleveland Street, and then there's loading access just to the north of that, also on North Cleveland Street, which you can see here. And we'll show you on the next slide, but the parking access is kind of the lighter gray ramp, and then the loading is yeah, you can see a little bit better on this one. The parking is the yellow ramp, and then the loading is the green ramp just to the north. And so then other things to highlight is just the below grade garage, as Dan mentioned, 156 parking spaces, which equates to a 0.42 ratio for residential, 0.03 parking per unit for visitor parking, and then 0.85 spaces per 1,000 for retail. Again, the loading area that's shown here in green will consist of one 40-foot berth and then two 30-foot loading berths. And again, just located just north on Cleveland Street. And then for the bicycle parking, you can see here on the image at the bottom, you would access that via the ramp from North Cleveland Street down to the P1 level, shown here in blue, to access the bike room, which houses 156 long-term bike spaces. And then there's 12 short-term bike racks placed around the site frontage. Next slide. So then this slide is it's a little bit busy, but it shows all the different multimodal elements around the site. So shown here in orange, this highlights the curbside elements around the site. So again, you can see the loading access and the parking access, both of which are located along Cleveland. Also along Cleveland, we have on-street parking along Cleveland, just south of the parking loading access. We also have on-street parking provided on North Barton Street, as well as on Wilson Boulevard. The purple shows the pickup and drop-off zone, which is located on North Barton Street near the residential lobby. Green shows the different bike elements around the site. So on North Barton Street, we have both a bike lane on the west side of Barton and then a protected bike lane on the east northbound side of Barton. And then this also highlights where the short-term bike racks are along Wilson Boulevard, the North Barton frontage, and also along Clarendon Boulevard. Pink shows the pedestrian improvements. So you can see here that there are curb extensions and improved curb ramps planned at the corners of Cleveland and Clarendon, Barton and Clarendon, and then also up at Wilson and Barton, as well as a realigned crosswalk across Clarendon Boulevard at the intersection of North Barton. And then finally, black shows offsite improvements that the project will be providing. And we can go into a little bit more detail on those offsite improvements on the next slide. But those do include upgraded signal equipment at the full intersections of Wilson Boulevard and North Barton, as well as Clarendon Boulevard and North Barton. And that includes, it's a little bit hard to see on the screen, but that includes signal equipment, including mast arms, signal controllers and cabinets, a curb extension on the south side of Clarendon at the North Barton intersection, as well as curb ramps on the south side of Clarendon at North Barton. And then finally, the site will of course be subject to a transportation management plan with the typical elements, including participation and funding, including contributions to ACCS, ATP membership, facilities and improvements, promotions, including smart trip cards, sustainable commuter benefits, and of course, performance monitoring. With that, I think I'll pass it back over to Dan.
Awesome. Thank you, Felice. So just to wrap it up in terms of the applicant presentation, we're really excited about this proposal. We think not only putting together the entire block allows us to really activate each side of the street, but we think we've done it in a very thoughtful way. Not to dwell on the existing conditions, but there's currently, loading off of North Barton and parking off of Cleveland Street. So consolidating that, making Cleveland Street kind of our utilitarian side of the building, we think is a really smart approach here. Obviously, on the southern half of the site, we're very focused on open space and making that a gathering space for the community, whether that includes the residents that actually live in this building or just neighbors that live nearby. And then the other streets will be activated as well by way of the improvements. So happy to answer any questions that you all may have tonight, but otherwise just want to reiterate our excitement about moving this project one step closer to the approvals.
Okay, and now we should have a staff presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, I'm going to give my screen a second to pop up. So I am Bryce Johnson with Arlington County Department of Environmental Services. I am the Principal Planner in the Development Services Bureau for the 2500 Wilson Boulevard Major Site Plan Amendment. This project is scheduled for the September County Board public hearing. This project consists of 3 applications. First is a GLUP amendment to change the GLUP designation from low office apartment hotel to medium office apartment hotel. Second is a rezoning application to rezone the site from the CO 1.5 mixed use district to the CO 2.5 mixed use district. And then the final item is a major site plan amendment to permit construction of a 14-story mixed use building, including 316 residential units and about 14,000 square feet of ground floor retail. To quickly orient ourselves, here is an aerial of the site. It is located within the Clarendon Courthouse neighborhood between the Clarendon and Courthouse metro stations. The site represents the block bounded by Wilson Boulevard, North Cleveland Street, Clarendon Boulevard, and North Barton Street. As I mentioned before, the applicant proposes to amend the GLUP designation to medium office apartment hotel. This is consistent with a special GLUP study accepted by the County Board in May of 2023. The details of that study are included in the draft County Board report. For our purposes, I will note that the special GLUP study references the transportation guidance from the Courthouse West Special GLUP study, which recommends that development accommodates all modes of travel, is safe and accessible for pedestrians, locates parking below grade, and locates parking and loading access from the side streets, such as North Cleveland Street. Next, the applicant proposes to rezone the site to the CO 2.5 mixed-use district. This district is consistent with the proposed GLUP designation. Together, the GLUP amendment and the rezoning permit additional density, which is proposed with the site plan. This brings us to the site plan proposal. The applicant proposes a 14-story mixed-use building with a new below-grade parking garage. In total, the applicant proposes 316 new multifamily units and about 14,000 square feet of ground floor retail. Including the bonus density earned through the site plan process, the total density will be 2.85 floor area ratio, or FAR. The building itself will be about 157 feet, including a 15-foot penthouse. As part of the proposal, the applicant requests modifications to the zoning ordinance requirements, affecting the permitted density, the minimum parking ratio, the maximum compact parking ratio, and others mentioned in the report. Now we will cover the transportation-related aspects of the project, starting with the proposed site access. On the right is the proposed site layout with the access points marked. The applicant proposes a 2-level below-grade garage that I mentioned before. It will be accessed from North Cleveland Street, marked by the yellow arrow. The applicant proposes a 0.42 spaces per unit parking ratio, resulting in 134 residential spaces plus 10 visitor spaces per the off-street multifamily parking guidelines. And then there will be an additional 12 dedicated retail spaces. These parking tabulations include a modification to allow an increased compact parking ratio from 15% to 19%. The applicant also proposes to reduce the parking. However, the site is within a half mile of 2 metro stations, and the off-street multifamily parking guidelines minimum residential parking ratio for market rate units is 0.3 spaces per unit. Next, the applicant proposes 3 loading bays, which will also be accessed from North Cleveland Street, marked by the purple arrow beside the parking entrance. I will also note that the applicant proposes to close an existing driveway on North Barton Street, which today serves for loading and trash pickup. As Dan mentioned before, with the driveway closure, the applicant is consolidating vehicular access points onto North Cleveland Street. For bicycle parking, the applicant proposes 2 secure bike rooms on each level of the below-grade garage. The applicant proposes 168 total bike spaces. 156 of these will be in the garage, while 12 of them will be outside for visitors. Finally, I will note that there is an existing bus stop at the southwest or bottom right corner of the site at North Barton Street and Clarendon Boulevard. The applicant proposes to improve this stop by providing a curb extension which will allow buses to stop without pulling out of traffic and thereby improve transit efficiency. Now we will review the proposed street conditions, starting with Wilson Boulevard. On the left of the screen, you will see a plan of the site with north oriented to the top and blue arrows marking the direction we are facing on Wilson Boulevard. To the right is the proposed cross section. Along the bottom is a chart summarizing the existing and proposed street and streetscape conditions. The applicant proposes no changes to the street itself, which contains an approximately 43.5-foot wide street section, consisting of a 7-foot wide parking lane, 2 roughly 12-foot wide westbound travel lanes, an approximately 5.5-foot wide westbound bike lane, and another 7-foot wide parking lane. Consistent with the Roslyn-Ballston or RB streetscape corridor standards, the applicant proposes a streetscape measuring 16 feet 8 inches in width, including an 8-inch concrete banding, 6 by 10-foot tree pits, and a 10-foot wide sidewalk. The applicant also proposes a curb extension and new curb ramps at the intersection with North Barton Street in order to provide traffic calming and reduce the pedestrian crossing distances across both streets. At the same intersection, the applicant also proposes new traffic signal equipment at each of the corners. Now moving counterclockwise around the site, we'll cover North Cleveland Street. Aside from the new loading and driveway entrances, the applicant proposes no changes to the street itself, which contains an approximately 36-foot wide section. This includes 7-foot wide parking lane, an approximately 11-foot wide travel lane with 1 going in either direction, so 2 travel lanes total, and another approximately 7-foot wide parking lane. Consistent with the RB streetscape corridor standards, the applicant proposes a new nearly 14-foot wide streetscape consisting of 8-inch concrete banding, 5 by 12-foot tree pits, and an approximately 8-foot wide sidewalk. The applicant also proposes a curb extension and curb ramp at the intersection with Clarendon Boulevard, again, to reduce the pedestrian crossing distance across North Cleveland Street. Now we'll move on to Clarendon Boulevard. The applicant proposes no changes to the street itself. It consists of a 46.5-foot wide section consisting of a 7.5-foot wide parking lane, 2 roughly 11-foot wide eastbound travel lanes, and a roughly 8-foot wide parking lane. Then also a 3-foot wide striped buffer and 6-foot wide eastbound bike lane. Consistent with the RB streetscape corridor standards, the applicant proposes a new streetscape measuring 16 feet 8 inches in width, including the 8-inch concrete banding again, 6 by 10-foot tree pits, a 10-foot wide sidewalk. The applicant also proposes a new crosswalk, curb ramp, and curb extension at the northwest corner of the intersection with North Barton Street, again, to reduce the pedestrian crossing distance across Clarendon Boulevard this time and provide a safer, accessible pedestrian experience. Additionally, the applicant proposes a curb extension at the southwest corner of that same intersection with new curb ramps, a new ADA compliant curb ramp at the southeast corner, and a new crosswalk linking the southwest and southeast corners. Finally, the applicant proposes new traffic signal at this intersection as well. Finally, we'll move on to North Barton Street. The applicant proposes a new street section here consisting of a 7-foot wide parking lane, a southbound 5-foot wide bike lane, 2 11-foot wide travel lanes with 1 lane in either direction, a 3-foot striped buffer, and a 5-foot wide protected northbound bike lane. In effect, this provides bike lanes which are not present today and also narrows the travel lanes as a means of traffic calming. Toward the intersection with Clarendon Boulevard, the street section will narrow to allow the curb extension I mentioned earlier that supports the bus stop. That curb extension will include a new curb ramp, which will be, and then the curb extension will be in place of the parking lane that I mentioned before. Otherwise, for the streetscape, the applicant proposes a roughly 14-foot wide streetscape consisting of the 8-inch concrete banding, 5 by 12-foot tree pits, and an 8.4-foot wide sidewalk. I will note that the plans show the majority of the sidewalk will be a minimum of 9 foot in width, as was presented at the SPRC. However, the applicant verified that there are a few extended areas where the building projects about 7 inches into the streetscape, thus the actual clear width will be about 8.4 feet. Like the other frontages, this is consistent with the RB streetscape corridor standards. Moving on from the transportation aspects, I will cover some of the other proposal highlights. First, the applicant proposes to achieve LEED Gold certification and is participating in the county's Green Building Incentive, or GBI, program. This supports the county's community energy plan. Next, the applicant proposes a minimum of 20 on-site committed affordable units, or CAFs, available to households earning up to 60% area median income. 14 of these are to fulfill the recommendations of the special GLEP study for the site, while 6 of those units are intended to meet bonus density. Additionally, the applicant will meet the standard affordable housing commitment of either providing a contribution or on-site or off-site CAFs. Together, these commitments support the affordable housing master plan. And finally, the applicant proposes an approximately 6,500 square foot privately owned public space along Clarendon Boulevard, as well as on-site public art, which the applicant mentioned before. These features support the public art master plan, the courthouse sector plan, and the special GLUP study conducted for the site. The application was accepted for review in December of last year. Following acceptance, the project received input through the usual SBRC process, which included online engagement and 2 SBRC meetings. There was also a second online engagement specifically covering the proposed open space. During the second SBRC meeting, members of the SBRC offered feedback regarding the transportation aspects of the project. There were 2 items I want to highlight. First, there was interest in a floating bus stop on North Barton Street in order to allow a southbound protected bike lane. Staff had considered this during review and have looked into it further. However, we have confirmed that there's insufficient space to allow for a floating bus stop at this location. They take up a little bit more space than we have on that street. Additionally, there's only a sufficient street space for 1 protected bike lane. So therefore we support the northbound protected bike lane because that one will not conflict with the southbound bus stop. Second, there was interest in shifting the proposed garage and loading entrances to North Barton Street instead of North Cleveland Street. The MTP recommends placing driveway entrances where there's less vehicular traffic and pedestrian activity. This is to minimize conflicts and to maximize safety. So based on the vehicle traffic and pedestrian counts conducted for the site, staff does support the entrances as proposed, where there's less activity and therefore conditions will be safer. So the project review is now wrapping up with the commission and board meetings. After today's meeting, the project will be reviewed by the Planning Commission on September 3rd, the Housing Commission on September 4th, and the County Board at their September 13th regular meeting. Overall, staff supports approval of the project because it is consistent with the goals of the MTP, the Courthouse West Sector Plan, and the RB Corridor Streetscape Standards, and the Special GLUP study conducted for this site. Therefore, staff recommends the Transportation Commission similarly support the project. For reference, this slide has the motions for the 3 items included with the project. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Before we get into Transportation Commission deliberations, we do have one speaker that is signed up to speak, and that is June O'Connell. Ms. O'Connell, are you available to speak now? I do think she's calling in from her phone, and I see 2 phone numbers here. Are you able to unmute yourself? Great. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
All right. I'm June O'Connell. I'm a taxpayer. I have had a unit in the Charleston condominium, 2400 Clarendon Boulevard, across the street from this building. I oppose it in this project, this item, and I urge you to reject it. I dispute that it will not result in adverse impacts to the streets and the neighborhoods. And I question the representation that although usually projects like this go to metro station areas, Courthouse Metro is a dysfunctional metro stop because nobody can get on it between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning because it arrives full. And that was before the Silver Line. Since 2001 with the Navy League, I cut my chops urging for a second metro elevator, and there was supposed to be a second metro entrance across from this project. Although some money for the first time was set aside for the courthouse expansion, it seems to have languished with the manager. So, and 2 other projects, the 2500 project, the Clean Energy Building and the Hyatt, both contributed significant money for a second elevator. And yet in this report, there's no mention of the capacity of the elevators that are at this end of the building. So what I'm asking you is that you instruct staff to include in this report, because I read it and there was nothing, a detailed timeline for when the second new metro elevator will be installed at Courthouse, and that they include how it will dovetail with this project, as in, will it be open before this site plan is built? And then the information in the report should include how the county will get that second elevator funded, and also what happened to the monies, over $2 or $3 million, that developers have contributed to a second metro entrance. And it's troubling to me that this applicant is not contributing to it. 312 units, probably 500 people, will not be able to get on the elevator. And I wonder if any of you have ever tried to get on that elevator between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning, and you better not be disabled. And then trying to get to the platform and actually get on a metro car during kind of passenger rush hour. It's just not started. So that should be in this staff report, and there should be an explanation for how much or why this applicant isn't contributing. The report should detail what happened to the money so far, when that second elevator will be built, and only then should you consider approving it. Like I said, I've lived here. Some of you must have tried to get on or off that elevator. The other metro entrances are not, under the CVS is really not accessible. So it's the illusion.
Your time is up.
Not the
Ms. O'Connell.
actuality. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, and with that, we can start with Transportation Commission deliberations.
Thank you. Thank you both to the applicant, the staff, and the public speaker. I think a lot of people that have used the metro elevators are pretty frustrated with their speed, especially the slow ones. But I don't think that a project with over 300 units should be held up until these elevator issues are resolved. That seems to be a separate matter for WMATA. That being said, would like to open it to other commissioners that have questions before I jump back in. Vice Chair Furman, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for the presentation. The main question that I had was concerning on Wilson Boulevard. The allocation on the streetscape as of right now is maintaining a bike lane facility, but it is doing so with then having parked cars in between the bike lane and the sidewalk. Wanted to look at whether staff or there's been any consideration with the applicant of flipping those, or if that's within the scope of this project, so that the bike lane would be protected by the parked vehicles to their left rather than the other way around.
I can respond to that. That wasn't something that we discussed as part of this project, just given the very limited nature of the revisions affecting Wilson Boulevard. However, that is county public right of way. So if there is continued interest in that, that is something we can look into in the future as well.
I think wherever possible, we should look to make those changes. I know it's happening in segments along parts of, some of those major right of ways that we have within that corridor. So just looking at whether that's set within this project, but if it's, if we're not going to be doing anything really different on that segment of Wilson, then I could understand maybe punting until there's a longer segment that's being worked on simultaneously.
Yeah, for this one, there wasn't really any street changes with Wilson Boulevard.
Understood. Thank you.
If anyone else has a question, please raise your hands. Commissioner Mendelson, please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you to the applicant and staff for the concise and detailed presentation. I just wanted to ask real quick if floating bus stop was considered on the Clarendon Boulevard side, not on the Barton Street location with the buses heading towards South Arlington, but the buses at the Clarendon Boulevard and Barton Street side where that realigned crosswalk is proposed. I just want to ask if that was something that was looked into at all. I think it might help reduce bike-bus conflicts in that area, which are very prevalent today.
I can speak to that one as well. That's something we didn't discuss with the applicant team, that we really were focused on the supporting the on-site bus stop that's there today. But I do understand where you're coming from about the bus stop on the southbound Clarendon for eastbound travel.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands up, so I'll ask a question. Going back to what Vice Chair Furman talked about, the protected bike lane. So this is a question for staff. Do you know when you might be doing work on that section of the street in terms of repaving or?
That I do not know off the top of my head when we would be looking to this section next.
Yeah, it's not going to be happening with after the construction of this project.
It
or concurrently
possible, but
it.
like I wouldn't say anything definitively at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the commission would agree that this is a primary corridor for biking, and if you're not going to have a protected bike lane here, then where are you really? And that the current design is not a best practice. And so I hope that, I know usually the way these things happen is you wait for a site to be redeveloped, and then the protected bike lanes are installed, and it's done in segments. But I hope we can get that done as soon as possible. And also, I'd like to thank the applicant for lowering the amount of parking spaces. I think the original ratio was 0.69, which that was pretty high to be in the Roslyn-Ballston corridor. It's and right now it's significantly lower at 0.42, but still above the recommended 0.3 for these types of projects in these corridors. But nonetheless, if you're looking at the kind of the silver lining, there are more bicycle spaces, parking spaces than car spaces. So that is pretty interesting, and I think really shows the direction this county is heading in terms of multimodality and transit resilience. So I'm excited to see this develop further. Let me see if anyone else has any questions. Commissioner Lane, tell me.
Thank you. You may, I didn't see this in the documents, so I may have missed it, and you may have mentioned it, but will there be a bus shelter on the Barton bus stop? Is there room for one?
I'm happy to take that. Thanks, Jim. We had been looking at the opportunity to put a shelter where the existing bus stop is. And part of the conflict that we were coming across was making sure that we had the ease of access to the open space, as well as the ability for retail to be successful within that open space. So we are not currently proposing a bus shelter in that location.
Okay, because expect that this question could very well come up at PC also. Because we have been pushing for bus shelters wherever possible, just to make it more attractive to ride the bus, because you know you're not going to get soaking wet while you're waiting for it. So just be prepared.
Understood. Thank you.
Commissioner Walker, please go ahead.
Although I agree that the second elevator it should not be held up as part of, this this project. I am curious for staff, if you know where this current project stands, the second elevator. Is it still something that is being considered by WMATA? Or is this something that is now off the table, or does staff know? I'd like to just to be responsive to the speaker.
Yeah, that is something I actually do not have a timeline on. That's not something that came up as part of the review of the development proposal. But that's something
If I may interrupt, Bryce, Commissioner Locker, we're going to touch on that in item number 3.
Right. So maybe the speaker can hang on and maybe get an update from you from then. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Lantelmi, I see your hand is still up, but I don't know if you put it down. All right, it's down now. All right, Mr. Johnson, if you could please pull up the screen with the resolutions, unless someone else has anything else to say, we'll go and start with voting on these. Just a minute, let me pull up my tally. Sorry, I had too many tabs open. All right, I move that we vote on the first resolution, which reads as follows. Recommend to the county board to adopt the attached resolution to approve the general land use plan amendment to change the land use designation for the portion of the block bounded by Wilson Boulevard, North Barton Street, Clarendon Boulevard, and North Cleveland Street, parentheses RPC number 18-007-006, comma -008, comma -009, comma -010-011-021-022-029 and -030 from low office apartment hotel to medium office apartment hotel. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Seconded.
Is there any debate on this resolution? No. All right then. Commissioner Coleman. All right. Looks like Commissioner Coleman might not be here. Commissioner Flores.
Yay, or yes.
Okay. Vice Chair Furman.
Aye.
Oh, right. Sorry, summer brain still.
That's all right. Commissioner Hussein.
Aye.
Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Locker.
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Shannon.
Aye.
All right. And Commissioner Theo. All right. Looks like maybe Commissioner Theo is not here. 1 minute. So the resolution passes by a vote of 8-0. Moving on to the second resolution. I'm going to read it out. it's recommend, the Transportation Commission recommends to the county board to adopt the attached ordinance to rezone the property from C-0-1.5 mixed use district to C-0-2.5 mixed use district for an approximately 62,011 square foot area located at 2500 Wilson Boulevard, parentheses, RPC numbers 18-007-006, comma, -008, comma, -009, comma, -010, comma, -011, comma, -012, comma, -021, comma, -022, comma, -029, and -030. Can I get a second for that motion, please?
Second. Before you
Okay.
go forward with the motion, Commissioner Coleman just sent a message that he too votes yes, but we cannot hear him.
Okay, all right.
For a 9-0 vote.
So that means the previous resolution passed 9-0 instead of 8-0.
That is correct.
Okay. Is there any debate on this motion, on this resolution? No? All right, we'll get to voting. Commissioner Coleman, are you able to? No, all right, just send your vote in the chat, please. Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Vice Chair Furman,
Aye.
Commissioner Hussein,
Aye.
Commissioner Lane Telmy,
Aye.
Commissioner Walker,
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Aye.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Aye.
I vote aye, and Commissioner Shannon.
Aye.
Okay. Zobicoya, were you able to get Commissioner Coleman's vote?
I'm checking. I don't see one yet.
Okay, well, in any case, the resolution passes. Moving on to the third and final resolution for this site. I move that we recommend to the county board to adopt the attached ordinance for SBLA 24-00034, parentheses, SB number 220, to permit the construction of a 14-story mixed-use building with approximately 343,719 square feet of residential GFA and 14,032 square feet of retail GFA with modifications for additional density exclusions, setbacks, reduced residential and retail parking ratio, compact parking ratio, and other modifications as necessary to achieve the proposed development located at 2500 Wilson Boulevard and identified as RPC number 18-007-006, -008, -009, -010, -011, -012, -021, -022, -029, and -030, subject to the conditions of the attached staff report. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded.
Okay, any debate on this resolution?
And before you go forward, he just sent a message that yes, he voted yes to
All right.
the second.
Thank you. Just updated my spreadsheet to reflect that. All right, I'm not hearing any debate about this, so we'll move on to the votes. Commissioner Coleman. I guess we'll get back
to him.
We'll get back to you. Commissioner Flores.
Aye.
Commissioner Vice Chair Furman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hussein.
Aye.
Commissioner Lane Telmy.
Aye.
Commissioner Walker.
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Aye.
I vote aye, and Commissioner Shannon.
Aye.
All right. The resolution passes.
And
right.
Commissioner Coleman also voted aye on this one too.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. That concludes this matter of the this agenda item. Moving on to the next one.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
the
you.
next, thank you guys. Thank you. The next item is the end of Roslyn site plan.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? This is Nicholas Cummings with Walsh Colucci here on behalf of the applicant, Monument Realty.
Yes, hear you.
Wonderful. One of our team members is going to share the presentation momentarily. If it's not already coming up, there we go. All right, I'll be giving you a brief overview of the project before our traffic engineer addresses the transportation elements. First, let's go to the next slide. The location of the property, as you can see, it is on the edge of the Roslyn-Ballston Metro Corridor on Fairfax Drive along Route 50. It's that red dot down there in the corner. That gray behind it is the Union on Queen. We shaded that in because it simply wasn't in the Google Images yet. It's not part of our project. It's an existing building. To the north, Union on Queen, just across the street, we have the Red Lion project. It's actually under construction right now. Just up the street 1 block is Park Roslyn and also Hillside Park just behind it. See all those trees there. Moving to the next slide. So very generally, our proposal is to demolish the existing motel and construct an 8-story residential building with approximately 141 units. There are multiple county policies impacting the site and its design. These include the Fort Myer Heights North Area Plan, which recommends both Art Deco architecture and a private open space adjacent to the building. The Historic Resources Inventory, which designates the building in the top 1/3 of the important structures in the county, which led us to include a bunch of preservation elements in the design as well. Responding to all of these recommendations, we produced a design that we think works very well. Hits as many county priorities as possible. And most importantly, and I think this is going to be the theme of this case as we advance through these meetings, can actually be built so that those benefits can be realized. And while it's not the focus today, you were probably aware if you took a look at the staff report, staff is recommending denial of the application because they don't feel that we have incorporated a sufficient private open space adjacent to the building. There is one, the disagreement is over the size. Our team is ready and willing to explain why that's simply not feasible, why the building layout that staff prefers is not feasible. We cannot finance and build something designed like that. And what we have done to provide that space with the 10-foot planted area adjacent to the building. I will say though, from a transportation perspective, I think this project complies completely with county policy, and we're excited for your consideration of it. There are several critical county community benefits delivered with the project. These include, most importantly, 13 on-site affordable units. That's approximately 9.5% of the total unit count, which is substantial for a building of this size. 6 of those are 1-bedrooms and 7 are 2-bedroom units. We have LEED Gold certified construction and participation in the Green Building Incentive Program. We're also all electric, but for the backup generator. A rebuilt Fairfax Drive streetscape, including space for the county to finish the new bike and ped trail just across Fairfax Drive from us. We had to give up some space, give up some building area again to enable that. 14 new canopy trees, but really 20 trees once you count all the ornamental trees, 20 new trees on site. Historic preservation, including use of the iconic 50 sign in the lobby and a historic marker. From a parking perspective, we're proposing 72 parking spaces, of which 2 would be EV and 13 are EV ready. This is a very challenging garage to design. I want to mention that. Adding to the other problems that we had to solve for on this site, there's bedrock below the first level. So we're really stuck with 1 level of below-grade parking. And to maximize our use of this space, we have 20 surplus compact parking spaces. County staff were comfortable with that if we set the legal parking requirement at 0.44 spaces per unit with a normal 15% compact parking ratio. They structured it this way so that staff could ensure we had sufficient parking pursuant to county policies. With no more than a 15% compact parking ratio. As long as we had that sufficient amount per county policy, these surplus compact spaces in excess of that 15% were acceptable, and we're going to manage those and do our best to use every square inch of that garage that we can, given the cost and difficulty of excavating that bedrock. We can go back up to the site plan image. This is a site plan view of the development. You can see on the right-hand side of the slide how we created the 10-foot open space along Pierce and extended it into the streetscape. We created this by pulling the building back and eliminating some units in square footage. We really cut it to the bone on the square footage front. I'll be clear that every square foot both is necessary to create units, but also to generate rental income that will eventually pay for the construction of the building, which is obviously quite expensive these days, but also financing, which is also quite expensive, and everything else that goes into it all, which is of course impacted by tariffs and other economic turbulence right now. We were able to add additional trees with this change, including 2 new trees in the open space adjacent to the building. Those are in that green space right next to the leasing area in that image. Access is off of both Pierce and Queen. Tenant access on Pierce and loading access on Queen. It was incredibly difficult to place these functions on such a small site, but also a site that slopes down sharply immediately towards Fairfax Drive. We separated them because 2 curb cuts on a single short, steep frontage was far less than ideal. It was also just difficult. We placed these entrances in basically every location that could have been at some point in the evolution of this project over the last 4 years. Again, suffice to say, placing access and related building functions on a site this small, it was very difficult, but we managed to come up with this design that we think works really well and hits on as many priorities as possible. The next slide is the roof plan. That shows you a little bit more how we're able to achieve additional tree canopy on site. There is 1 additional tree on Queen Street than typical spacing would allow. We worked with staff to add that and provide sufficient soil volumes. You can also see the amenity area on the 4th floor. This provides an additional planted area with a small tree in it and some relief on the Fairfax facade. It also creates a bit of a step back in the building. We can go to the next slide. The next slide summarizes some of the general goals of the area plan, and we're really hitting those goals out of the park. Construction of affordable units, 13 on-site affordable units. We're doing that. Preservation of tree cover, enhancement of streetscapes with shade trees. We currently have no trees whatsoever on this site. It's a derelict vacant motel. The project adds 20 new trees with 14 on the streetscape. Provision of public and private open space. We have that open area along Pierce Street that melds into the streetscape as well. The improved neighborhood edge and pedestrian-oriented streetscape along Fairfax Drive. We have created that urban edge. We've moved the building up, and we're also vacating county right-of-way that extended into our site to be able to do that properly. Provision of adequate parking using creative strategies. That goes right back to the garage narrative that I just gave you with the difficulty of excavating here, and also the creative use of that with all the compact spaces. So the final slide that I have in my portion before I pass it over quickly to Mike Warkowski at Wells to go over some of the transportation elements is this rendering. You can see these white panels on the front of the building. Those are intended to mimic the iconic Route 50 sign on top of the existing motel. You can also see the 50 sign in the lobby. You can see the planted area along Pierce with the new trees and the other plants in it. And certainly the level of biophilic design and the level that this team has embraced trying to green this building up and down. It looks in its final proposed form a lot like the Red Line project next door, which I think was mentioned in SPRC as a great example to look to for this element, but also one that is actually being built right now, which is another really important thing, because that's also delivering some important affordable housing. Now, with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Warkowski. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Warkowski. I'm with Wells and Associates, and we prepared the MMTA for the property. So the first slide here shows some of the auto turn movements for the various intersections around the site, and this primarily is for the loading dock driveway that's on North Queen. So you can see in the diagram in the upper left corner, this is for an SU30, which is a single unit 30-foot, essentially a panel delivery truck that you see every day. So this is coming into the site. Now moving to the right is the truck pulling up and then backing into the dock, and then the sort of one in the center of the screen is the truck pulling out and coming back. So even though the roads are, as tightened up as they can be to minimize crossing distances and those sorts of things, we have enough room to be able to get in and out of the loading dock, being able to, utilize the street space there. We can go to the next one. So these are the street cross sections, both the Fairfax Drive section, Pierce section, and Queen Street section. So the Fairfax Drive section, you can see, maintaining travel ways. A key element is keeping the clear space that's around the site. So we have 6 feet clearance there, 2 travel lanes, and then the 10-foot asphalt trail that is being widened there. So that's a huge element that really helps mobility in and around the site. Moving over to North Pierce, we have 2 travel lanes, again 6 foot clear along the property in the 5-foot landscape zone, which we maintain there. And this is in the vicinity towards the corner there as you're coming down to Fairfax Drive. And then finally over at Queen Street, 2 travel lanes there, 5-foot clearance along the site frontage and the 5-foot landscape zone. So these are all, essentially keeping as tight as cross section as we can get, but providing the clear zone around the building and maintaining the landscape buffer. Next, please. So we talked about some of the elements previously. This is, what we would be subject to, the transportation management plan. All of you are familiar with sort of the 4 major elements: the participation in funding, physical improvements such as the bike facilities, promotional things such as smart trip cards to get persons to use and get used to using transit, and then the performance monitoring that ensures that we meet or exceed the non-auto mode goals for the area. Next, please. So these are the transit services that are shown around the site. You can see the property sort of in the southwestern portion of the diagram there. Primarily, we're about a half mile from the Roslyn Metro Station. That makes the connections to the orange and silver lines there as well. And so that allows you, and the blue line that's shown dashed on the diagram here. And there is also bus lines that are over to slightly to the west, about 2 blocks over at Rhodes, and then a block or 2 to the north along Clarendon and Wilson Boulevard. There are plenty of stops along those areas there. That's a short walk from the site. Next, please. So this includes the pedestrian bicycle infrastructure. So there are, as shown, this shows the diagram shows sidewalks that are essentially provides a connected network out there around all of the parcels. As mentioned previously, all the site frontages will all be upgraded, so we'll have that clear zone around the property itself. There will be some upgrades to the crosswalks and pedestrian ramps that are, on each of the corners there. And then from the bicycle facilities side, there are a number of bicycle or capital bike share stations, but the asphalt trail that's along the south side of Fairfax Drive will be widened to 10 feet. So again, that's a huge improvement that will really improve mobility in the area. We actually have 62 bicycle parking spaces. So that's a little bit different than what you see on the screen here. So we have 2 more than shown here. Next, please. So as mentioned, we prepared a multimodal assessment. We evaluated the 8 study intersections around the site. There was previously a 38-room hotel in this location, going to 141 residential units. So when we look at the differential between those, this site would generate about 10 additional peak hour trips when compared to the previous use. That being said, the 141 units is expected to only generate about 20 to 25 peak hour trips. So this really has a minor impact on really the delays and those sorts of operational things that are around the site at these various intersections, which all essentially operate acceptable levels at the signalized locations. We also looked at the turning movements at the site driveway on Pierce, and those operate at acceptable levels. And again, as mentioned previously, we would be participating in the transportation management plan that helps ensure that these policies and non-auto mode shares are achieved. That's all the slides that I have, and Nick, I'll turn it back over to you to wrap up if there are any final thoughts.
Yeah, our presentation is complete, and then I think that Sergio is going to have a presentation as well.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Hello, good evening. Just bear with me 1 second while I get my presentation up. Okay. Good evening. I'm Sergio Vericochea, a principal planner for the Development Services Bureau under DES. I'll be speaking on the Inn of Roslyn project, a site plan. I also have Mike Kaluski with the Real Estate Bureau to answer any questions on the proposed vacations. Today we'll cover these 3 subject items related to Site Plan 471, which proposes to construct a residential building and below-grade garage, as well as zoning modifications. Then we'll discuss the rezoning of a portion of the site to unify the site under one zoning designation. Lastly, we'll discuss vacations associated with this project. The site is located within the Radnor Fort Myers Civic Association and is located within the planning area of the Fort Myers Heights North Plan. It is zoned as RA 6-15 Multiple Family Dwelling District and designated as medium residential on the GLUP. Here's a quick summary of the existing conditions as well. Currently on the site is a 3-story motel that is not active with 38 units constructed back in 1957. The site includes a surface parking lot with 31 striped spaces. The proposed development includes demolition of the existing building on site and construction of a new residential building that will rise 8 stories and include 141 dwelling units. Parking will be provided via construction of a new 2-level below-grade garage. The applicant is requesting the following zoning modifications related to additional density exclusions, residential parking ratio, and lot coverage. The project includes a new 2-level below-grade garage with access from North Pier Street, east of the site. It provides 64 spaces for residents, which is a ratio of 0.44 spaces per unit, plus 8 spaces for visitors. For loading and trash services, a single bay access from North Queen Street, west of the site is proposed, and this will accommodate both loading and trash collection. In terms of bike parking, on the first level of the garage on P1, there will be a dedicated bike room. This bike room will include 58 secure spaces, and there are going to be 4 spaces on site reserved for visitors. Now we'll take a look at the proposed street and streetscape improvements along Fairfax Drive. The applicant is proposing to widen the existing street to a varying width from existing 27.25 feet to the varying width of 25.5 feet to 32.5 feet, while maintaining the current 2-way configuration with 1 travel lane in each direction. On the north side, the applicant is proposing a 13-foot wide streetscape consisting of a 5-foot tree zone and an 8-foot sidewalk. This represents a 7-foot increase when comparing to the existing streetscape. Oops, jumped ahead there. It's important to note that the curb on the north side, on the project side, is being coordinated with the county project called the Arlington Boulevard Trail Enhancements Fairfax Drive project. That project will improve the south side of Fairfax Drive with a new 10-foot wide 2-way asphalt trail, along with updated striping, ornamental plantings, and safety fixtures. And once completed, it will provide a consistent street width, not a varying one anymore. Next, we'll look at Pierce Street. As shown on this slide, the applicant proposes to maintain the existing street width and maintain its existing 2-way configuration with 1 lane in each direction. The applicant proposes an 11-foot wide streetscape consisting of a 5-foot wide tree zone and a 6-foot wide sidewalk. This represents a 5.5-foot increase compared to the existing streetscape. Lastly, we'll take a look at North Queen Street, as shown on this slide. The applicant proposes to reduce the existing street width to 23.5 feet and maintain its existing two-way configuration with 1 lane in each direction. The applicant proposes a 10-foot wide streetscape consisting of a 5-foot wide tree zone and a 5-foot wide sidewalk. This represents a 3-foot increase when compared to the existing streetscape. The applicant does seek to vacate 14 square feet, a small portion, and also a 2,838 square foot portion along Fairfax Drive right away, currently used as part of the property surface lot and streetscape. And they will also request to rezone the 2,838 square foot portion to be vacated from S-3A to RA6-15, therefore unifying the entire property under a single zoning district. In addition to the proposed streetscape and roadway improvements, the development will be LEED Gold certified and include 13 on-site committed affordable units of a mixture of 6 one-bedroom units and 7 two-bedroom units for 30 years at 60% AMI. As Nick mentioned on this slide, I wanted to clarify that staff does not have concerns with the transportation elements of the proposal, but concerns are with the non-transportation elements, which conflict with guidance of the Fort Myers Heights North Plan. Specifically, the plan provides insufficient open space and includes a building form, site design, and height that are not consistent with the plan's goals. These issues are the basis for the staff's recommendation for non-support. In terms of schedule, this project completed an online engagement and 2 SPRC meetings. It is now on schedule for commission meetings with the county board targeted in September. Here's a list of some of the upcoming commission meetings and also the county board date. As noted before, while the transportation proposals are consistent with the MTP and generally aligned with the Fort Myers Heights North Plan, staff does not support the project because it fails to meet key site-specific planning guidance. In particular, the plan calls for a substantial landscape green area on site, and which this proposed building footprint does not provide. Lastly, county staff recommend to deny this site plan to permit the construction of a residential units with modifications to zoning standards along with the proposed rezoning. County staff also find that the proposed vacation portions of the sidewalk and utility easements related to the site plan are substantially in accord with the adopted comp plan or applicable thereof of the master transportation plan. Here's my contact info, as well as the information for my real estate and CPHD colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we get into Transportation Commission deliberations, we do have 2 speakers. The first is Stuart Stein, speaking as an individual, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to associate myself with the comments that you will be hearing from Leslie Arminsky. I'm assuming he's the second speaker, representing RAFOM, Radnor Fort Myers Heights Civic Association. I also want to emphasize the transportation part of this, that I feel very strongly that this site is underparked, not technically based on the policy that you've been pursuing in the county, but as a practical matter, living with the results of such policy on other site plans and knowing very much the makeup of the community and the lack of parking and the need for parking in the area. in addition to that, I just mention that when we start discussing Fairfax Drive, I was part of the North Fort Myers Heights plan for, I can say, probably over 5 years negotiations. And it's very important to think of the goals, and they included scale in the community. But above all, one thing that you have to remember is the entire purpose of this plan was one for preservation, not to incentivize redevelopment, but to incorporate it in what would naturally happen in the area. It was a matter of negotiation. Unfortunately, in the negotiation that resulted in this plan, many of our ideas and hopes for Fairfax Drive were given up. Very few, no one but a couple of developers were interested in a large wall on Fairfax Drive. In fact, it was the person who put the plan together, Carrie Johnson, would have explained to you the
30 seconds.
The potential for the for Fairfax to be part of Arlington Boulevard and emphasize the pedestrian nature of that and the scale. Unfortunately, those things were not realized in the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops. And next we have Leslie Armiski speaking for 4 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Always have trouble with Microsoft Teams. Good evening. My name is Leslie Arminsky, and I represent the Radnor Fort Myers Heights Civic Association, RAFEFUM. I will limit my comments to those appropriate to transportation issues, which include parking and electric vehicles. We acknowledge the difficulties with the size and geometry of the site, which is in part due to the block not having been consolidated before development. The plan proposes 72 residential parking spaces for approximately 141 living units, or a 0.51 ratio. So that number includes 8 visitor spaces, and there are all sorts of ways you can do the calculations. There are 10 compact spaces, about 14%, with an additional 11 proposed compact spaces surplus above the proposed ratio. And at SPRC, the developer stated that the effective parking ratio would be 0.6, which is sort of what was presented earlier tonight, but it was never clear to me that this is consistent with the county guidance for parking spaces, and I'd like staff and the developer to comment on that. In any case, RAFEFUM feels that the site plan may be somewhat underparked. We understand that the counties move away from car dependence, but RAFEFUM disagrees based on the comments that basically similar to what Stuart made before. Now, I was happy to see that Nick mentioned that they had 2.7% EV spaces to be constructed and 13 EV ready, because I couldn't find that anywhere in the documentation available. However, it's still less than what the green green initiative, the county guidelines have. It's 4% and 15%. So you have 2.7% bad, 18% sort of good, but either way, we would think that there should be more even than the county green initiative shows. So, and I think it's warranted for this site. So That's all I have to say. It includes my remarks, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And that ends speaker comments. Turn it over to the commission.
Thank you. Thank you to the applicant and staff and Mr. Stein and Mr. Arminsky for their comments. I would like to open the floor to other commissioners before I weigh in. So please raise your hand if you have a comment. All right, I'm not seeing any. Oh, here we go. Vice Chair Furman, please go ahead. Oh, actually, there's one person before you. Whose number?
Yep, go ahead. Go to them first.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, Vice Chair Furman, you go ahead, and then we'll go to you, Commissioner Hussain, afterwards.
Okay, I think this question is, it may not just be site specific. I think I'm maybe looking for more context from the county staff on this. This is not the first time in very recent history that we've had the Radnor Fort Myers Heights Civic Association coming with concerns around parking. Now, that neighborhood is inside of the residential permit parking zones, zone 5. I know it's not on every street within that area. Is the concern that with an absence of parking provided on site, that the zones will either be overrun with people parking illegally, or that there are too many streets that are not included in the zone and that people are relying on street parking in order to park their vehicles? Because I don't necessarily think that I don't want the applicant to have to carry the burden of providing more parking than what they think they need for their business, but I also don't want the neighborhood to have to be beholden to having concerns of there being no parking that they've become accustomed to having in the area. If it's in a zone that's a little bit tricky because it's a space that's a decent distance between both the Roslyn Metro and the Courthouse Metro. It's not insurmountable, but between geography and other factors, it probably works better to have people biking more often than not in this spot to those metro stations. It's a little bit more of a walk. So just to keep it a little bit simplified, to just love if there's any sort of answer around what that primary driving concern seems to be when it comes to parking in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think you mentioned county staff to maybe take a stab at it. An applicant, go ahead if my response is not enough, but the applicant is definitely meeting the guidelines we have for the off-street residential parking guidelines, which is 0.4 for this area. I will say it is a ways away from the Roslyn Metro Station, but it is still part of the guidelines overall, and the applicant is proposing a ratio that's above the minimum. And because of the surplus parking as well, that gives the applicant just a bit more flexibility too on if there are some, I guess, concerns with the parking that's being proposed not being sufficient. But I'll let the applicant, speak up if they have anything else to add.
I can add that we're using every square inch of the garage that we can build. We wouldn't mind a little bit more parking, but we cannot dig into the bedrock any further and not completely blow what's already a budget that is very difficult to overcome to get this building financed and built. I think we have enough parking. I think that there's a philosophical disagreement between Mr. Arminsky, who I know and have seen at these meetings and talked to for years and years and years, especially about this issue too. It certainly is overflow. That's usually the concern, is that folks are going to be parking in residential neighborhoods and taking over parking or double parking in areas where they shouldn't be. The permit parking program itself has been a matter of controversy in the county, where some folks think that it should be easier to get protections for that for residents. Other folks think that these streets should be open for everyone and allocated differently. From our perspective as developers, our tenants cannot get permit parking passes, right? Because they live in a building approved by site plan, it's not allowed. So if those protections are put on those streets, and if enforcement is active enough, which is a huge challenge in the county, then this problem can be properly addressed. We want our tenants to park in our building. That's it, full stop. So we try to provide enough parking if we can. And obviously, you guys understand this, certainly being on TC, but part of the thesis of these buildings is, if you build it, they'll come, right? This building has, a 0.6 effective parking ratio. So we're going to lease to some tenants who don't own a car or want a car, and they're going to be using transit and walking up that hill. They'll be young and fit, I assume. So, it's in part like, who are you going to rent to, and targeting them too, that helps with all of that, because there's other buildings with a ton of parking. So, there's buildings for everyone in the market, let's put it that way. We think we have.
Thank you. I have other questions, but I'm going to yield to the other commissioners who may want to cover them themselves.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that according to the latest data that I was able to find, there is no residential parking permit program for the streets right next to this building. The closest street is on Quinn Street North, so the residents could apply for that to the county. Commissioner Hussein.
There we go. Yeah, I just I think Commissioner Vice Chair Furman kind of presented the question that I kind of had related to parking. I agree. I think this is a little bit of a more tricky part of Arlington when it comes to parking, but transit and transportation in general, just because like there's also not like a very close bus stop to this part of the world. There's not really a close there's kind of a close bike share, but it's not like really close. And so, but I think that all that being said, I don't have too much of a problem with the parking ratio as it is. I guess my question is more pedestrian focused, I think. I was wondering if either staff or the applicant could maybe talk through more about if they've thought about, or what kinds of pedestrian safety improvements they've thought about, especially when it comes to along North Pierce and North Queen, because those two streets are pretty steep. I mean, like, it's not technically a far walk to the Roslyn Metro or the Courthouse Metro, but just that trek alone up Pierce can be kind of intense, especially coming down. And so just, also interacting with the cars coming down there. So I'm just curious to know if you guys could speak to if you've thought about what kinds of pedestrian safety improvements you have for those two streets in particular.
I'll start. I'll let Sergio think, because he might want to think of something, but also Mr. Orkowski, if you want to chime in. I mean, I think that first and foremost, the best thing that we're doing is rebuilding that streetscape to the area plan recommendation, adding street trees, adding a rebuilt sidewalk at 6 feet clear. That's a huge change from what you've got out there right now, which is a very narrow sidewalk, no trees, no protection, nothing. You're kind of bare against the street and against that vacant site. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Nick, I would just add to that. I think the major difference is going to be you'll have not only that buffer and a totally different streetscape and experience that's wider, but also there'll be more activity there because of the curb parking that's just north of where the entrance is, where the garage entrance is. And some of that activity, the more activity you have on the street, it tends to create a little bit of that friction to slow traffic down. But it's going to be a very different experience. And I do agree with your comments of it is a little tricky from the perspective of as the crow flies. It seems like an easy walk, but when you factor in the topo and such, I think you're going to have a mix. You're going to have the persons that can really manage it, and the others that want to ride. I also think, just to touch on the question surrounding parking and how all that works. In some of these cases, at least in my experience, these buildings, you get them as close as you can to that good ratio that you like, and then they sort of self-regulate. They realize the persons that these kinds of buildings draw, they understand what they're getting into, and that really it hits the niche for a lot of these buildings, and that really allows them to operate well. So Sergio, if you have any other thoughts about the streetscape.
Yeah, I think y'all already kind of hit the streetscape. The one thing I wanted to answer was about like the safety regarding some of the access management improvements that this site is doing. So currently Pierce Street is littered with driveways. It has 3 driveways today. There's one on Fairfax and there's another one on Queen for a total of 5 driveways. Driveways can sometimes, especially if they're excessive, can be seen as potential conflict points between vehicles and pedestrians. So with this proposal, those 5 driveways that exist today are being reduced down to just 2 driveways. And I think the biggest improvement would be on the side streets, with Pierce Street having 3 today, going down to 1, where this proposal is having just better access management, which in turn can also have some safety improvements there, because you're just reducing the likeliness of conflicts by just having 1 main access point. This one on Pierce will be for the garage. The one on Queen will be for loading and trash services, and there will not be a driveway on Fairfax Drive anymore.
We used to have a bus stop right out in front of Red Line. There was a bus stop, and I want to say that bus line might have been taken away. Another element of this project is giving that space for the county to finish the trail project. That, I think, is going to be the next best solution for anybody who wants to get to Metro, is either use bike or walk or scooter or whatever you're comfortable with down that path, wrapping through down into downtown Roslyn. Then you can get to the station. And once you have that path, you're going to be much happier getting over to Roslyn, which is obviously a transit hub and gives you access to a lot of paths to wherever you got to go.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Coleman.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. So I just wanted to go back to one of the statements made by one of the earlier, I think it was the second speaker, around the amount of green spaces you have for EV charging units at your property. Could you just speak a little bit to that? Because it seemed like we're a little bit under what the county's goals are, and I would align myself with the speaker's sentiments that we want to be trying to overshoot that, right? Not under deliver. So can you just speak a little bit to his concerns there?
Yeah, I have written down, and Mike, you can double check me, and so can Jess Washington, who's my associate in the background there, but we have 4 EV charging spaces, 13 EV ready spaces. We are participating in the county's Green Building Incentive Program at the 0.25 FAR level. We have committed ourselves to complying with those requirements for EV and EV ready. So if I misquoted any number or anything like that, then we're complying with that. And I think that was part of the comment, was that we were falling short of those percentages, which we should not be.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right. Commissioner Mendelson.
Hello, thank you guys for the presentation. Sorry, bear with me, I'm a little sick. I wanted to go back to the streetscape images, specifically for Fairfax Drive, and also go back to your comment, Mr. Cummings, regarding former bus service on Fairfax Drive. So, beginning with Metro's Better Bus Network, in late June, bus service actually was restored to Fairfax Drive on the new A76 route. And why I wanted to go back to the streetscape specifically is because I saw only 9.5 feet for Fairfax Drive westbound, which I do not think is enough for bus operations. I think they need a little bit more to safely operate. So I wanted to see if that was something you guys had looked into. I know it's a very relatively recent change, but I don't think WMATA would be able to safely operate bus service if the lane was that narrow. So yeah, that's it.
I'm going to punt that one to staff first. We can certainly discuss, the process by which we arrived at 9.5, which I think in this situation was specifically for providing for the right of way, or the right of way of the space for the county trail project. But as far as like acceptable lane widths and bus travel, I think that's Sergio.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So county staff does support the overall travel lane width that's being proposed with this. I guess in the street section that I'm pulling up right now, it does say that there's like a 9.5-foot travel lane, but then if you include the gutter pan, which is 1.5 feet, we're up to 11 feet, which is the standard for the standard width for transit vehicles. So eventually, this roadway, Fairfax Drive, will be just reduced down to 22 feet in width from curb to curb, which is going to be 2 11-foot travel lanes. I think I have a cross section of that, but what I have presented right now is just from it doesn't include the gutter pan. So if you include that, we do get to 11 feet. And I just wanted to bring up the ultimate section too over here. Eventually, when the county project is done, it's going to be a 22-foot wide roadway, curb to curb, which is fine to accommodate transit vehicles because typically they require 11 feet minimum.
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was covered. Thank you guys for the answers.
Commissioner Lane, tell me.
Yes, thank you. A couple things. First off, going back to buses, on your bus slide, as Commissioner Mendelson mentioned, the bus routes have changed. You'll want to update that when you present it next week. Also note that DC circulator was discontinued a few months ago, so that's no longer operating. I would have a question about is the bus stop on this site for the restored service, or is that on across the street further down Fairfax?
So, Commissioner Lantelmi, I am virtually certain that we on the Red Line project, the applicants there, and obviously I handled that one, reserved the ability to build a bus stop there and actually promised to pay for it, I think, too.
Great. So I think I remember that from those SPRCs, and I wasn't sure whether it was this SPRC or that one where that.
It was like a last minute promise that we could also pay for the bus stop because I think a lot of us didn't think it would actually come back or happen or what the timing would be, et cetera. It's easy to get negative these days about funding for all kinds of things. We ultimately decided, I think it was Mr. Ward himself, just said, you know what, I'll do it, it's fine. And so we promised to pay for it.
Second, walking to the store, actually, when I was a Ray Farm resident, I walked this daily. And actually walking to the Roslyn Metro, topography is not an issue because we're at the bottom of the hill here. So I expect a number of people will in fact use the subway just because it's fair, walk to the subway, just because it actually, for this whole neighborhood, it's probably one of the easier walks because you don't have to go up and down a hill one way or another. It's an unpleasant walk because Fairfax Drive was so awful, the sidewalks were so awful. But that's one of the big things here. I do recognize widening those sidewalks and putting the tree pits there will make it feel way more safe than when I used to walk it. It was just between the cars rushing by, the narrow sidewalks, the lack of trees, the only advantage was the lack of topography. Other than that, it was not a pleasant walk when I did that twice a day. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to note that. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other commissioners raising their hands. It's kind of a challenging project given the restrictions of the Fort Myer, the Fort Myer North plan, and the size of the site. I don't know how this gets resolved with that. With the double loaded corridor, you might have to go with a single stair setup that is currently not a zoning option. So we always have issues with these sites along this corridor because you have height restrictions going up to 121 feet, and then you have the difficult rock, the geology underneath. So these issues do not concern our commission specifically. So for the resolutions tonight, I would be just voting on whether the things are in compliance with the master transportation plan. That way we are providing the county board an advisory role without evaluating whether the requirements for a garden style public space has been met. So that's more of a planning commission thing, which they will be discussing shortly. So if the staff would pull up the resolution so everyone could see, please. So I would like to make a motion to amend the resolutions. Let me pull up the text, and I can drop them also in the. I can also drop them into the chat. Where is this? So for the first resolution, I would like a motion to amend to the following text, which I'm dropping into the chat now, and which I would be reading out loud. The Transportation Commission finds that the application for a new site plan, SPLN 22-00010, parentheses SB number 471, to permit the construction of an 8-story multifamily building with up to 141 dwelling units with modifications of use regulations for additional density, reduced residential parking ratio, one-way drive aisle width, density exclusions, and other modifications necessary to achieve the proposed development located at 1601 Fairfax Drive, and a portion of Fairfax Drive proposed to be vacated, parentheses RPC number 17-027-008 is substantially in accord with the master transportation plan. If someone agrees with that, and they could second that motion, we can move to a discussion. Thank you.
Second.
Would anyone like to discuss this? Any hands? Commissioner Lantelmi, please go ahead.
Yes, I'll be supporting this because I think that it is appropriate for us as the Transportation Commission to simply make our recommendation transportation related, and that we do not need to get into the reasons for the staff's recommendation of a denial. As staff has mentioned in their report and testimony tonight, the transportation issues are not the concern for this project. There are other concerns which will be vetted next week at Planning Commission and maybe at Housing Commission too. But other than that, I think that we should be able to give the county board the benefit of our analysis of this from a transportation viewpoint. So I'll be voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? I am not seeing any hands. Let me know if you need more time to read this in the chat. If not, I'd like to move to a vote, and I'll read the resolution again. The Transportation Commission finds that the application for a new site plan, parentheses SPLN 22-00010, parentheses SB-471, to permit the construction of an 8-story multifamily building with up to 141 dwelling units with modifications of use regulations for additional density, reduced residential parking ratio, one-way drive aisle width, density exclusions, and other modifications necessary to achieve the proposed development located at 1601 Fairfax Drive at a portion of Fairfax Drive proposed to be vacated, parentheses RPC number 17-027-008, is substantially in accord with the master transportation plan. Any second of that vote?
Second.
Okay, great. Then let's move on to the voting. Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Vice Chair Furman,
Aye.
Commissioner Hussein,
Aye.
Commissioner Lantelmi,
Aye.
Commissioner Locker,
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Aye.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Aye.
I vote aye, and Commissioner Shannon.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to the second recommendation. I also have a motion to amend, and I will be, for the same reasons as elaborated in the first one, but I'll be including that in the chat right now, and I'll also be reading it out. The amended resolution reads as the Transportation Commission finds that the application parentheses REZN 25-00003 to rezone an approximately 3,000 square foot portion of Fairfax Drive right away proposed to be vacated is substantially in accord with the master transportation plan. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah. Any discussion on this proposed on this amended motion? No. Then I propose that we move to vote on it, and I'll read it out once again. The Transportation Commission finds that the application REZN 25-0003 to rezone an approximately 3,000 square foot portion of Fairfax Drive right away proposed to be vacated is substantially in accord with the master transportation plan. Can I get a second for that?
Seconded.
Great. All right, moving on to the voting. Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Flores.
Aye.
Vice Chair Furman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hussein.
Aye.
Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Locker.
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Shannon.
Aye.
Okay, and then the final thing is the ordinance to vacate. And I think for this one, we can do it without changing the language. So I will read it, and if I could get a second after I'm done reading for that. So, Transportation Commission find that the proposed ordinance to vacate, 1, a portion of an existing easement for public sidewalk utilities and drainage purposes on a portion of the property owned by 1601 Fairfax Drive LLC, located at 1601 Fairfax Drive, identified as RPC number 17-027-008, and 2, a portion of the Fairfax Drive right-of-way abutting the southern boundary of the parcel identified above, all with conditions and all related to site plan number 471, located at 1601 Fairfax Drive, are substantially in accord with the adopted comprehensive plan or applicable part thereof, including the master transportation plan. Any second? Yeah.
Seconded.
Great. Any discussion or debate on this recommendation? None. All right, we'll move on. I move to vote. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Great.
Seconded.
All right, Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Flores.
Aye.
Commissioner Furman. I mean, Vice Chair Furman, sorry.
That's okay. I lost connection for a second. Aye.
All right. Commissioner Hussein.
Aye.
Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Locker.
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Aye.
I vote aye. And Commissioner Shannon.
Aye.
Okay. That concludes this agenda item. Thank you very much to everyone who presented, and I hope that you all will be able to resolve some of the challenges with this project going forward. Moving on to the next one.
Deeply appreciate the focused discussion. Look forward to Planning Commission next week. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next two agenda items are with staff member Rich Rorsman, and the first of the two is the NVTA Regional FY 2030 through 31 funding applications, and the second is the VDOT Revenue Sharing FY 2029 through 2030 funding applications. And with that, Rich, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Obekoya. Good evening, commissioners. Again, I'm Rich Roisman with DES Regional Transportation Planning. I do not have a slide deck, so I'm going to share the draft staff report, which was distributed to you. First item is, again, applications to the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority for their fiscal year. It's actually the fiscal 26 to 31 6-year program, but the way they do it is they add the 2 out years for the new applications. So that's why it's shown as fiscal 2030 and 2031. We are proposing to apply for 13 applications to the NVTA with a total funding request to the NVTA of $115.7 million. I'm not going to list every project or not read off every project. If commissioners have specific questions about an individual project, I'm happy to answer those. Just note that they are listed in priority order. Some of them are for construction or design, right-of-way, utilities, and construction. Some of them are for design only or design and right-of-way utilities only. Those are noted in the write-ups of each application or each proposed application. And then the resolution lists them at the end. So I'm just going to zoom in. Oh, that's not a zoom. Sorry. Hopefully everyone can clearly read the manager's recommendation, which is what we're looking for action on from the TC this evening. With that, I will stop and happy to take any questions about the process or about any specific application that we're proposing to put forth for this cycle. And again, the NVTA awards this funding beginning in fiscal year 2030. We do have the ability to what is called forward appropriate funds once they are awarded, if we can demonstrate that the project is ready to execute. But the initial awards are for fiscal year 2030. So we're looking 5 years out from today.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Lane, tell me.
Oh, I had no comments on this.
Oh, okay. Other commissioners. Vice Chair Furman, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly compliment the order of priority here, but also calling out if the speaker from the first agenda item is still on the call. I think that it was alluded to some of the improvements for the courthouse metro station that's listed here as the third item. I think that's wonderful to see. Very excited to see the South George Mason multimodal project at the top here. I think that would be a tremendous improvement, really help north-south multimodal abilities for folks in the county. It's a true weakness that we have right now within our transportation system. So it'd be great to see that be prioritized and moved up. And also happy to see the Mason and South 4 Mile Drive included here at the top as well. So just associating that, very happy to see this priority list. Thank you.
And thanks for the reminder that I neglected to address the courthouse piece and Commissioner Locker's comment before. Again, this application is for design funding for the courthouse elevator, and the proposal is to put 2 new high-speed elevators in the existing location where the one creaky one is right now.
So this is for 2030 and it's just design. When could we potentially expect a an actual built elevator or 2 elevators there?
Tentatively, if we were to get the award in 2030 when we proceeded in 2030, we're probably looking at two to 3 years. We'll say 2 years for design. Then we would need to apply for construction funding. There is no funding for construction currently. Well, it's probably flagged in the CIP, but it is through external sources that are application based. So that would put us in fiscal 2032, 33 to begin construction. And then I would say, given the complexity of the project, we're probably looking at a 2 to 3 year construction period. So we are doing a CIP update starting right now. And so this project, along with all the other ones that are for which we're applying to the NVTA, will be updated and refreshed as part of the CIP update. So schedules may be adjusted as we look in more detail at each one of these projects.
Yeah. No, I hope that given the WMATA's new focus on improving service on the already built network rather than expansion might accelerate that, because otherwise we're looking at a decade for 2 elevators. Commissioner Locker, please go ahead.
I was just wondering what the next generation bus information project is.
Sure. Let me just pull up my copy of the description. Again, it's brief. It's largely for bus stop information. So to get rid of the paper maps and schedules that are currently displayed at all ART bus stops, to move to a dynamic QR code based system where a rider can simply pull up the latest information and the bus location using their phone or other mobile device. It also proposes to add digital displays inside all the ART buses that communicate stop information, transfer, safety, and other announcements to riders on board buses. So the $2.5 million would acquire the assets for the bus stops and the buses and install them.
Great, thank you.
Seeing no other commissioners raising their hand, I'd also like to associate myself with what Vice Chair Furman said about prioritizing the South George Mason Drive project, because this is incredibly important, not only because it establishes reinforces a new connection that is lacking, but also it passes by schools and it will increase resilience and the freedom for students to get to school more safely. So I think a lot of people are excited about this and are hopeful that it will arrive as soon as possible.
Let me clarify to your remarks, Mr. Chair. The folks who may remember that the South George Mason multimodal planning study divided the roadway into 3 segments. Segment 1 from Arlington Boulevard to Columbia Pike, segment 2 from Columbia Pike to South 4 Mile Run, and segment 3 from South 4 Mile Run to South Dinwiddie Street at the Fairfax County border. This NVTA application, the $36 million one, is for design, right-of-way, utilities, and construction of segments 2 and 3. Segment 1 is currently in very preliminary stages of design and is funded without using NVTA funds, so that one is already underway. In addition, the intersection improvements at 4 Mile Run and George Mason, which is a separate NVTA application listed here, that includes a proposed grade separation of the WNOD trail at that intersection, constructing a bridge. So again, that's only a design application at this point, but that treatment and separation of the trail from the rest of the roadway is part of the application for design for the intersection improvements.
Great. Yeah. Any stronger north-south connections are very welcome to facilitate movement within the county. Commissioner Walker, do you have a new comment, or did you forget to lower your hand?
That was just lingering. Apologies.
No problem. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I will read the recommendation here, and I think we can do this all in one motion and one vote. So Transportation Commission recommends to adopt the resolution, Attachment A, authorizing Arlington County's 13 funding applications to the MBTA shown in priority order in the resolution with a total funding request of $115.7 million, and authorize the county manager or his designee to execute MBTA standard project agreements for any projects that are awarded funding by the MBTA, subject to a review of the SPA as formed by the county attorney. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move on to, can we get a motion to vote on this? A seconded motion to vote.
Second.
Commissioner Coleman. All right, looks like Commissioner Coleman fortunately fell off again. Commissioner Flores.
Aye.
Vice Chair Furman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hussein.
Aye.
Commissioner Lane, Commissioner Lane, tell me.
Aye.
Commissioner Locker.
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Shannon.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the next agenda item.
All right. Stop sharing and switch to the other board report. This one is a lot simpler because there are only 2 projects under consideration. Sorry, I might not have pulled this one up. Give me just a moment. Okay, now we're ready. Okay. This is application to VDOT for fiscal 27 revenue sharing program applications. This one is identified by the year in which the program is solicited, but the anticipated funding is for fiscal 29 and 2030. And it is a little more difficult, although not impossible, to get those funds earlier. But for purposes of planning and estimating, we're looking at fiscal 29 and 30. This is a statewide program that VDOT solicits every other year. Total program funding across the Commonwealth is capped at $200 million by statute. We are proposing to submit 2 revenue sharing applications for a total request of $6.5 million. The first one is the Arlington Boulevard Trail. This is the segment on the south side of Route 50 between South George Mason and 800 feet east of South Glebe Road, adjacent to the National Foreign Affairs Training Center. This project already has revenue sharing on it, as well as some other funding sources. So this goes in as what is called a Tier 1 revenue sharing project, and so it takes priority when there are limited funds. The second application is for intersection improvements at Langston Boulevard and Washington Boulevard. This would add a second left turn lane from northbound Langston to westbound Washington Boulevard, going outbound to I-66. At this location, the intersection and the left turn lane is on the Langston Bridge over I-66. So to put in the double left turn lane, a portion of the median on the bridge would be demolished and replaced with a double yellow line. And there would also be traffic signal upgrades to control the new left turn lane. These are the 2 projects, and I will stop there and take any questions from commissioners.
Any questions? Commissioner Mendelson, please go ahead.
Sorry, I might have missed this, but I just wanted to clarify they're ordered in terms of like priority, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then I also wanted to ask, as part of the Langston Boulevard turn lane, is there has there been any looking into pedestrian improvements for that specific bridge over I-66? Because I know it can be pretty uncomfortable to walk in its current condition.
I unfortunately do not know who owns that bridge. I suspect it is a VDOT bridge because it's on Langston, which is a VDOT facility at that point, and it's crossing Interstate 66. Typically, we're not able to get improved pedestrian accommodations on one of those bridges unless there is a complete rehabilitation of the bridge. Often because VDOT is funding their improvements using either state or federal state of good repair funds, which limit your ability to actually make those type of modifications to the bridge. So as far as this application, no, it's simply for the vehicle double turn lane and the signals.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Ludlow, please go ahead.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. On the left turn lane, will it be the option on that double of either going straight or left?
I would need to confirm that with our transportation engineering and operations, but I suspect it is left only. So the configuration would become left through right with the new configuration.
Oh, okay. So there'd be a preservation of both through lanes straight, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Just making sure it wasn't getting constrained to one through.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thanks.
So basically, this will look kind of like the section on the leading to the on-ramp at 15th Street South in Pentagon City with 2 left turn lanes to get on to the interstate, or in that case, Richmond Road.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't driven that portion of Pentagon City recently, but yeah, I mean the existing condition, because there's insufficient turn storage for that left, the queues go back down Langston Boulevard in in becoming South Washington Street, past the fire station, and then into the City of Falls Church. So maybe they don't go quite that long, but there are definitely queues in there under the current conditions. So that is by far the heaviest movement, particularly in the PM peak. Although it's not as peaked as you would think. There's plenty of outbound traffic on westbound 66 in the morning also.
Yeah. So can you explain the logic for recommending this project out of all the potential projects?
So we submitted 5 pre-applications for revenue sharing.
Mm-hmm.
The other 3 that are not included here for full application are part of the NVTA package. Those are 3 of the Glebe Road intersection improvements that came out of the most recent VDOT STARS study. So,
Commissioner Ludlow, please go ahead.
Yeah, just one other follow-up on that one. That is the principal conduit for vehicle traffic, I believe, between Arlington and the City of Falls Church, and with the continued rapid pace of development in Falls Church, especially along the Broad Street spine, that is a really critical place. And I assume that there's been some traffic analysis to look at the turning movements and the need to be able to divert additional cars onto Washington instead of straight on Langston. I'd be interested in knowing. Also, I think, like what the chair was referring to, a little bit more background on it. But it seems like a worthy project. It's just it is a really critical area that maybe is underlooked, and as somebody who does move with somewhat some regularity between Arlington and Falls Church on that corridor, my perceptions could be wrong, but it does seem to be experiencing elevated flows just due to the increased development in Falls Church, especially.
There's definitely a lot going on there between Falls Church and, it's also an access route to the East Falls Church Metro Rail Station. If you turn right on Washington Boulevard heading northbound, I know that the city has their own set of projects for the stretch of North Washington Street right at the city-county border. Those are actually, I think, partially funded by NVTA funds, oddly enough. But we continue to work in close coordination with our colleagues in Falls Church to make sure that all of our projects are mutually supporting all users along US 29.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I would appreciate in the future a little bit more information about why particularly these projects and kind of the reasoning the county is using. I'm sure there is a reasoning. I'm sure none of this is arbitrary, but as it stands, we just get a shared screen of a document we already have. It's not much of a presentation.
I will note that for future issues of this.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No. Seeing no further questions, I move that we vote on the recommendation that reads as follows: that the County Board adopt the resolution attachment A authorizing Arlington County's VDOT fiscal year 2027 revenue sharing program applications and committing the county to its local funding portion of approved projects, and authorize the county manager or his designee to execute project agreements with VDOT for any approved project, subject to review of the agreements as to form by the county attorney. Can I get a second for that?
Seconded.
Second.
Great. Commissioner Coleman, are you back with us?
Yep.
Really, great. How do you vote?
Aye.
Great. Commissioner Flores.
Aye.
Vice Chair Furman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hussein.
Aye.
Commissioner Lane Telme.
Aye.
Commissioner Walker.
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Shannon.
Aye.
Okay, that's it. I think that concludes this agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Roisman. I think that includes all of the scheduled agenda items for this evening.
That is correct. Do we have any other business we need to discuss?
Any updates on SBRCs? Anything upcoming that we need to address? Commissioner Hussein, you go.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Just a quick update. From the Transit Advisory Committee, I want to say in July, there was a capital projects tour that I attended along with some of the other members of the TAC, which was very exciting. We got to ride on a new battery electric bus, and they took us around and showed us some of the various projects around the county, notably I believe it was some of the construction along the Transitway in Pentagon City, the Crystal City Metro second entrance, and then as well as some of the developments around the East Falls Church Metro. So it was a really cool tour and a really productive night. So yeah, not much else to update from there, but it was a good time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Commissioner Flores, please go ahead.
I was at the Walgreens site, 3130 Langston Boulevard, SPRC, and one of the reps from the North Highlands Civic Association approached me and included me, as well as our chair and Commissioner Lantalmi, on an email asking if there was any chance we could include at least one delegate from the Transportation Commission to attend county board meetings that they've scheduled for dates that I'll put in the chat to essentially do site visits to the Walgreens site. First to Commissioner Luntelmi and Chair Maradovic, are there any that did you see that email, and were there any that you flagged as you would like to attend?
Yeah, I did
Yes.
see those emails. I'm still deciding whether, if I win, I'd probably be as the Langston Boulevard Alliance president rather than as a transportation or a planning commissioner. So I'm still looking at my schedule to see which one could work.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
There's definitely a bit of an unspoken ask for us to be able to attend all of them, which when he first approached me about it, it was just one meeting. So the fact that it's now 3 is a little taxing on everyone's schedules, I'm sure. But I definitely wanted to give space for people to join, especially since this is the first SPRC that we are seeing going out under the new Langston Boulevard plan. So it's kind of really exciting to see that area see some growth.
Yeah, that's a very important project. Kind of at the periphery, the urban periphery, so to speak, right next to the highway. So it's important. There's a lot of conflict between vehicles and pedestrians. So it's important that we get that right. I think I could attend the September 10th one.
Okay.
These are, I think attending all 3 is not reasonable, given that we are all volunteers and these are all the times are during the workday. But
yep.
If there are other commissioners that are able to attend and interested to attend, please send an email out. But I think I will be attending the one on September 10th. And Commissioner Lantelmi, you said you would look at your schedule as a rep for your neighborhood. So
well, for the Langston Boulevard Alliance. Actually.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Langston
Yeah,
Boulevard
I'll check it. So I won't go on the 10th since you'll be there.
Okay. All right. So we can coordinate the 2 of us. We can stay in touch.
Yeah, and I'll probably just do whichever one Jim can't go to.
Okay, so that would mean we would have
Yeah,
3 covered.
but if anybody else, would like to attend, I did want to throw it out there.
Yeah. Thank you.
For
Thank you for
further
that,
clarity, we have not had the transportation session for SPRC on this one. So anything that is discussed at this point is also going to be discussed at the transportation SPRC. So it'd be a really good opportunity to get the ideas flowing before we have that second SPRC.
Yeah, it's also worthwhile just listening to whoever else is there, because these should be community members, and just hearing what their impressions are. I find that often to be a useful information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I have one thing. So the Neighborhood Complete Streets Commission is supposed to have a rep from the Transportation Commission, but we haven't had one for a while. So if anyone would like to volunteer for that, please let me know. I received an email from the new chair of that commission, Kathy Lewis, and she writes that the commission isn't a heavy lift. We only meet 5 times a year on Monday evenings, alternating between in-person and virtual meetings. And it would be nice to have a TC rep on that commission. That's kind of an important commission that does a lot of the work outside of the major corridors to really improve safety in our county. So think about that. If anyone would like to join, please reach out to me and Ms. Obikoya. Thank you. Commissioner Hussain.
I apologize, Chair. I did have one more, just really quick on
Okay.
the River House SPRC. Yeah, sorry, it'll be really quick. I think we had our July meeting. I believe it's the last SPRC meeting before the River House project comes to the transportation or all the commissions, transportation and planning at least. It was good. The discussion was on traffic, off-street parking, community benefits, and I think overall, I think the project is nice. I mean, I'm excited to see the increased density in the River House neighborhood, especially in the place of all that surface parking. So I think it's good discussion, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing it come to us in the somewhat near future, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. That's a huge project, so it's nice that that's moving along. Thank you, Commissioner Hussein, for the update. Anyone else?
Oh, by the way, Meg, I'll do the 18th for the
18th?
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good. I'll still forward it to the team, but I'll let Aaron know that we've got 3 aligned. Jim, I'll make sure to clarify that while you are a member of the Transportation Commission, you'll be attending as a member of the Alliance.
Right.
Yeah. Commissioner Lang, tell me wears many hats.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah. Commissioner Mendelson, please go ahead.
Thank you. Real quick, in regards to Vision Zero, I know Commissioner Theo usually speaks on this, but he's absent, so I'll just give a quick little update. They're about to get into their Vision Zero action plan update in the next, I believe, 2 months or so. I believe Commissioner Theo would be our main representative who goes to that virtual meeting, but just wanted to let you all know that is going to happen really soon. The first external stakeholders group meeting is scheduled for early September. Scheduled for early October, sorry. So yeah, just want to let you all know.
Great, thank you. I'll reach out to Commissioner Theo and see if he needs anything from the commission on that. All right, I think seeing no other hands, I think we can conclude tonight's meeting.
Okay, our next meeting is our Thursday, October 2nd, and it's hybrid, in person and virtual.
Yeah, so hopefully most of us will be in person so we can have a quorum. And I hope you enjoyed the virtual meeting tonight. Made it certainly more convenient for a lot of people. All right, have a good night, everyone, and see you next one. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Good night. Thanks,
Bye.
y'all.